Hello again, and welcome back to Nana Lynn, our story time with Nana Lynn and Glow. We are on our very last chapter of the book, the wrap-up chapter in Another's Treasure, and we just found out last time where the treasure was, what the treasure was, and so now we need to figure out what's going to happen between Uriah Barnhart and Anita. I think there might be something going to happen. I'm not sure. But let's get this done. All right. Chapter 34. Monday morning when the store opened, Elizabeth felt as if they'd been handed a brand new beginning. At the same time, without Anita Smucker's treasure hunt hanging over their heads, around noon, life began to feel a little boring. She spent so much time trying to solve Warren's riddle that it was hard to redirect her mind to do something else. Quit it, Elizabeth, she murmured to herself as she marked some new items going on the shelves. Mary walked up her. Go ahead and have lunch, she said. I've got this. Martha can come out when she's ready. Elizabeth thanked her and started toward the door when a familiar car pulled up. Anita. Just for a moment, Elizabeth tensed. She had to remind herself that there wasn't anything left for Anita to be angry about. Maybe she wanted to share news of the sale of the photo. However, instead of looking triumphant, her expression made it clear she was upset. What now? Can I speak with you for a minute? She asked Elizabeth, outside. Elizabeth nodded and followed her to the door. Before she stepped out, she glanced back at Mary, who stared at her in confusion. Elizabeth smiled, hoping to reassure her younger sister. After all, how could anything be wrong? The mystery had been solved. Anita took Elizabeth's arm and pulled her a few yards away from the shop's entrance. Some people coming in looked their way, but they were too far away to hear their conversation. What's wrong? Elizabeth asked, her voice wavering a little. Well, nothing with the photo, Anita said quickly. Please don't look so worried. It's Uriah. I went by his home this morning, and he wouldn't see me. I really want to find a way to bridge this gap, Elizabeth. I wondered, would you go with me this afternoon, please? Elizabeth felt a rush of relief, followed by a knot of concern in her stomach. Well, I don't know why you think he'll talk to me. Last time I saw him, he was accusing me of stealing his sword. But you helped recover it, right? Well, yes, I did. So maybe he'll be grateful, Anita said. Look, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I really want to apologize to him, and I need your help to do that. Elizabeth had told John that she and her sisters would wear Uriah down until he finally allowed them into his life. This wasn't the day she planned to do it, but maybe it was God's way. Okay, she said slowly, I'll go. But don't expect too much, okay? It might take a while to get him to open up to us. Well, I know he's angry with me, but I've heard he pushes everyone away. What made him so unsociable? Do you have any idea? Since Ruth hadn't asked them not to keep what she had shared quiet, Elizabeth told Anita about Uriah's sad past. By the time she finished, tears flowed down Anita's cheeks. Elizabeth couldn't hide her own emotions and dabbed at her eyes with her fingertips. Oh, Elizabeth, now I feel even worse about the way our families have treated each other. There's no way you could have known about Uriah's fiancée and her grandson. And you don't start the war between your families. And you didn't start the war between your families, excuse me. Please don't beat yourself up. Uriah is responsible for his own actions, Anita. A lot of people have tragedy in their lives, but they don't isolate themselves and treat people with disrespect. I know, but I don't think what happened between our great-grandfathers is helping anything. Well, let's see what we can do about that. She smiled at Anita. Why don't we pray before we leave? I think we need all the help we can get. Well, I think that's a wonderful idea, Anita said. So the two women held hands and asked God to help them get through to Uriah Barnhart, to soften his heart and allow him to touch his life with God, with God's love. When they said amen, Elizabeth felt better. Nothing was impossible with God. With his love, maybe they could help to heal Uriah's broken heart. They got to Anita's car and then drove over to Uriah's parking in front of his house. Since he told me to leave, Anita said, could you talk to him alone first? Maybe he'll listen to you. Although she didn't want to face Uriah by herself, Elizabeth agreed. If I can get us both inside, I'll wave at you. Okay. Anita put her hand on Elizabeth's arm. Bless you for trying, Elizabeth. I believe God is with you. Elizabeth got out of her car. She stood looking at the old house for a moment, praying Anita was right. She took a deep breath and started walking up the sidewalk. She just stepped up on the porch when the front door swung open. Uriah stood there glaring at her. His expression was menacing, not the reaction she'd hoped for. The police haven't returned the sword yet, he barked. So you're wasting your time. I'm not letting it out of my sight again, ever. Well, that's fine, Mr. Barnhart, she said. I'm not here about the sword. Then why are you here? He asked in a loud voice. Do I have something else you want? No, Elizabeth said, as she blew out a breath and that she'd been holding for a while. Look, we want to. We? Who's we? He stepped out on the porch and stared at the car. Is that Anita Smucker? You brought her with you. She asked me to come here. She can't ask me to come here with her. She needs to talk to you, Mr. Barnhart. She wants my sword. He shook his fist at the car. She's not getting it, I told you. Uriah, stop it. Stop it right now. Elizabeth almost gasped at her own words. Where had this come from? And she'd called him by his first name. Now she'd done it. What do you mean? He asked, his face white as a sheet. Although she didn't understand the change in his demeanor, the decision to push forward. I want to come in and talk to you like two civilized citizens. I don't want to stand out here yelling. Well, yeah, that wouldn't be good, would it? The neighbors might not like it very much at all. Anyway, he stepped back toward the door. Elizabeth was shocked to see him pull the door open and gesture for her to come inside. And when she did, he walked into the living room and sat down on the couch without saying a word. She lowered herself into a chair near him. I need you to listen to me for a couple of moments, Elizabeth said. That's it. If you want me to leave and never come back, I'll respect your wishes. But he didn't respond. But he waved his hand as if telling her to continue. Anita Smucker has come here today to talk to you, not to ask for the sword. She doesn't want it. She only wants to apologize to you. His bushy eyebrows shot up. Apologize to me? For what? For the animosity that's existed between your families? She has something to show you. A diary written by Gideon Smucker. In it, he talks about the great friendship he had with Noah, your great-great-grandfather. He said Noah had saved his life on more than one occasion. He loved Noah like a brother. After Gideon died, Noah was almost inconsolable. We know this because of the last entry in the diary written by Noah himself. In the end, he could only go on because he came to believe it was Gideon who would have wanted. It's what Gideon would have wanted. I'm sorry. I don't know if you're aware of this, but he named one of his children Gideon in honor of his dear friend. The anger that the Smuckers have had toward Noah was misplaced, Uriah. You were right. Anita is really sorry for it. She wants to see if you two can heal the rift in your families. And I think it's time, isn't it? He was quiet for a moment. I'll talk to her. You can tell her to come inside. Although she was thrilled to hear it, Elizabeth was confused by the sudden change in his attitude. I have to ask you something. When I told you when she stepped up onto the porch, no, I told you when we were on the porch. I'm sorry, my eyes are acting a little funny this evening. When I told you on the porch to stop arguing with me, you seemed surprised. Why? Truthfully, Elizabeth was just as stunned as Uriah. She never talked that way to anyone, especially someone she was a little afraid of. Suddenly, the old man's eyes filled with tears. There was a woman once who would set me straight when I needed it. At that moment, you sounded just like her." He shook his head. "I realized that if she were here, that's exactly what she would have done to me, or said to me." He met Elizabeth's gaze. "But I don't want to be angry anymore. It's exhausting. I've been angry ever since I lost someone, 2 people, years ago. I'm not honoring their memories. I'm making it worse." His shaky sigh was full of emotion. "A year ago, I found out I had cancer. I went to Philadelphia for treatment. I've never felt so alone in my life. The cancer's gone, but my doctor told me if I didn't get rid of my rage, it could come back. He believes that sometimes our state of mind can affect our bodies. I think he's right. I can't say I've felt good for years." He stood up. "Look, I want you to know that it wasn't just the way you talked to me on the porch. Your mother was the only person I ever trusted. She had a way of seeing beyond my facade. I liked her, and she really liked me, though there wasn't any reason to. The Zooks like you," Elizabeth said. "They won't be at church much longer. They'll be leaving soon. I know they'd love to see you before they go." "One step at a time," Uriah said, "but I'll try." Then he did something Elizabeth had never seen him do. Uriah Barnhart smiled. Blinking away fresh tears, Elizabeth picked up her purse and headed for the front door. "I'll send Anita in," she paused, with her hand on the door. "I have your number, you know. I hope that's okay. I'll be calling you soon. My sisters and I want you to come to our house for supper." She turned around and grinned at him. "And I expect you to come, Uriah." He nodded and wiped the tears from his eyes. "I'll be there. Thank you." Elizabeth walked toward the car, where Anita waited. She quietly thanked God for her life in Bird in Hand and her sisters, and all the unexpected blessings that had come out of what had at first looked like a trial. Slowly but surely, she was discovering who she was again. She found out that she wasn't too... Slowly but surely, she discovering who she was again. She found out that she wasn't too old for new beginnings, that the Klassen sisters were a formidable team, and that Jessica Fletcher had nothing on her. She had hoped that good days were ahead, and she could hardly wait to see what all surprises God had in store for them. So there we have it. We finished the book. We finished the riddle. And Uriah made some new friends, didn't he? All right, well, I will talk to you later. We'll see you in the next video. My voice is going, and we need to get a lot more stuff done today. So we will talk to you in the next video, and hopefully Miss Glow will be back to read some more in her book, and then we'll probably take turns alternating. So we will see you in the next video. Bye.